pair bonding is the emotional and sexual connection between a man and a woman when it comes to getting together, raising a family, being able to bond in a way that supports the family in a functional manner. So, men and women are affected differently by promiscuity and by multiple sex partners, whereas biologically, the man is able to father with several different women, but women can only get pregnant once. And so, there's a different biological and emotional aspect of that between men and women. So, when it comes to women and sexual promiscuity, the more sexual partners she has, it limits her ability to pair bond in a healthy relationship with one man, long term, raising a kid, starting a family. The man also, too, with multiple sex partners, it affects his view of women, and it affects his ability to pair bond, but it's different because on a biological level, he is able to father with several different women. So it doesn't affect the man the way it affects the woman. Being promiscuous doesn't affect the man the way that it affects the woman. It has different consequences. There's different ramifications for someone's sexual choices later on in life. Whereas a woman's on a biological clock, so if she has her period in her teens and then turns 18, goes to college, gets a career, and then gets older, there's this point in her mid 20s to 30s to mid 30s where realizes that the biological clock is ticking, and that's a real problem to think about when it comes to if you want kids or not, or if you want to raise a family. And the more sexual partners that a woman has, the more it decreases her chance of being able to pair bond well with a man in a way that's strong emotional connection, strong sexual connection, chemistry. And it can happen. It's not to say that anything's too late for someone, but on the woman's side, to have a kid, there is a point that it's too late. Just physically and biologically, there is a point that it's too late. And so when we're in this culture, especially with contraceptives and the ability to use sex recreationally, people are putting off kids longer and marriage, relationships, all of that. And so if a woman has the ability and the liberty and the freedom to do whatever, if she has 500 sex partners and she's 30 years old, that affects her ability to bond emotionally with a guy. Her ability to bond sexually with a guy in a way where they're pair bonded and it's us two raising this child, starting this family, getting this healthy relationship going. And so it affects her. And so that's why you see a lot of times the older women get, the more frustrated and bitter they get, because she's fighting a certain biological clock. And on just a raw natural level, you look at any species, when you have sex, that procreates. And so a woman that's having like 500 sexual partners and maybe she takes a birth control pill or the guy uses a condom, having 500 sexual partners but not having a kid, that's just not natural. Like on a physical level, a woman that's had 500 guys and to not have a child, that just like it goes against nature. Like the act of sex creates kids, it procreates. So it affects the woman emotionally when she has like 500 sex partners but no kid, because the act of sex is supposed to create a kid. So if you've been going through your whole 20s as a woman and now you're in your 30s looking for the alpha male husband or like the provider, the guy that's going to take care of you the rest of your life, there's a point that it starts to catch up with her. Whereas a guy too, like if he just is sleeping around and if he's just if he has multiple sex partners, it also affects his view of women. Whether that's with women face to face in person, with hookups or relationships, or with porn or masturbation, like all of these forms, it also decreases his ability to pair bond. It affects his view of women when he's viewing women as sexual objects or just another notch on the belt or just like something to get his nut off or whatever. So it affects him as well, but biologically the man is able to father more than one woman. So it doesn't affect the man emotionally the way that it affects the woman, because just biologically we are set up differently. So with pair bonding, it's very hard because the more sexual partners that both have, it decreases the ability to pair bond, but the man has sort of an easier time to rebound from that. an easier time to sort out life and to understand realities and to grow up and to get rid of past ways of thinking and to mature. The man has time on his side. The woman does not have the same time on her side. So say a man and a woman are growing up and they're learning more about the world, learning more about themselves, learning more about what's real. They might be 25 or 30 before they hit certain levels of maturity. But say they hit 30 and a man and a woman, they're on like a similar track, and they hit 30 and now they're both more mature to a point where they get it. Well, I mean, a woman getting it at 30 and a man getting it at 30 is different because biologically they're not in the same place. Fertility-wise, the woman's on the decline at that point, and the guy, he might not even reach his peak yet of finances or coming into his own as a man, so he can still ascend, so to speak, where she's descending. So that's where it gets complicated, and it really comes down to information and what's available to someone, and what someone's been told, the experiences they've had, what you were led to believe as the thing to go do, or what you were led to believe of how to view the opposite sex. Now, there's no judgment here on like what someone did in their past in terms of sexual partners or sexual history, but the woman does not have time on her side. So a man and a woman at like 18, and say they go through their 20s and they're just figuring themselves out, figuring out life. When they hit 30 and now they see things, now they realize things. A woman is not in the same place at 30 that a man is when it comes to biology and just the economy and like how we're structuring society and working and finances. So if she's just been having multiple sex partners, it decreases her ability to see one guy as like, okay, I'm going to do it with this guy, and we're going to raise this kid, and we're going to have this family, and we're going to do this thing, we're going to go forward. So it's been affecting her. Like the multiple sex partners for the woman, it affects her. It affects how she's viewing men. It affects her view of herself in regards to childbearing, because on a biological level, when you're having sex, that procreates. So just because we have condoms, just because we have birth control, just because we have contraceptives, the act of sex is still a procreating act. So a woman with like 500 sexual partners, it goes against nature. Like, you shouldn't have 500 sexual partners and not have had a kid by now. Now, you can make the choice to. I'm not saying it's wrong for her to do whatever. I'm just saying on an emotional level for connection and chemistry, that affects the woman. It affects her view of herself and how she's viewing men and her ability to have a healthy relationship with a man. And the same thing with a man too. Like if he's just watching porn, or he's just having a bunch of sex with different women, that also affects his view of women. And both the man and the woman can have negative consequences, but the man is set up biologically a little bit differently, whereas the man can father several women, the women can only get pregnant once. And so with pair bonding, it affects the woman a lot differently than it does the man.